Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at a story that completely defies logic. It really proves that history is sometimes hiding right in plain sight. We're going to examine how a 61-year-old retired carpenter named Henry Calder went on an entirely ordinary Tuesday errand run to his local Maple Street thrift store. You know, a routine he treated like a quiet reward after finishing his chores. Well, he ended up stumbling into a literally history-altering discovery. Henry wasn't looking for anything in particular. He was kind of just browsing, the way some people go fishing, simply enjoying the quiet pleasure of it. But what he found tucked away behind a stack of cheap plastic knockoff picture frames, oh man, it would soon flip the entire global art world completely upside down.
Okay, let's dive into this. When Henry finally pulled this painting out from the back wall, he took it up to the counter. The young clerk sitting there, she had the small flower tattoo on her wrist, scanned the item, held out her hand for his cash, and casually dropped an incredibly haunting comment. She said, "That painting has been here for months, and nobody has ever even picked it up once before today." Henry just laughed, took his receipt, and carried the piece out to his truck. He was completely unaware at that moment of just how chilling and profoundly ironic her comment would soon become, especially considering what was actually sitting right there in her store for all those months.
And that brings us to the purchase itself. Henry paid exactly $5 for this piece. Now you might be wondering, did he buy it because he loved the art? Nope. In fact, Henry thought the painting itself was honestly a little ugly. It was this loud, abstract piece covered in thick black lines and patches of yellow and red. But remember, Henry had spent 40 years working with his hands, building kitchens and fixing porches. He knew wood. He knew joints. When he looked at the corner of that wooden frame sticking out, his decades of carpentry experience instantly recognized the high-quality, older craftsmanship. The details on that ornate wooden frame alone were worth far more than the $5 written in black marker on the little sticker. So, treating it as a total bargain for the wood alone, he took it home.
Section 1. A Carpenter's Intuition. When Henry got home, he decided to hang this loud, abstract canvas over the fireplace in his quiet living room, but almost immediately it felt completely out of place. It was practically screaming against the calm aesthetic of his home. He actually strongly considered just taking it right back to the thrift store. But as the house grew quiet, Henry went to adjust the canvas on the wall, and his experienced hands noticed something was off. This revealed a sequence of undeniable physical and sensory clues. First up, the jarring weight. The moment he lifted it, his instincts screamed that something was wrong. Second, the very next morning, the low angles of the dawn light exposed that the frame was completely uneven. It was thicker on the right side by a full half-inch. Third, when he moved it to his garage workbench and tapped his knuckles along the wood, 3 corners sounded completely solid, but the thick lower right corner emitted a distinct, hollow echo. And finally, fourth, as he leaned in, the faint chemical smell of acrylic paint couldn't mask a deeper, muskier scent coming through the back of the canvas. It was the undeniable odor of old, decaying paper. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale of the weight difference Henry actually felt. Any normal canvas of this size should weigh a maximum of 3 pounds. But this piece, it felt closer to 9 pounds. That's triple the expected weight. As a master carpenter, Henry knew that a true custom frame is built on a perfect jig. An uneven frame with a hollow corner and triple the weight wasn't just some mistake of poor craftsmanship. To Henry's experienced hands, this proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that a deliberate deception was at play. Someone had intentionally built this frame to hide something heavy inside of it.
Section 2. The Hidden Masterpiece. Driven by intense curiosity but absolutely terrified of destroying the piece, Henry called his friend Walter, a retired antique dealer. Walter arrived shortly after with specialized tools and dropped a massive bombshell theory. He explained that back in the dangerous era of stagecoach robberies, painters would frequently conceal their true masterpieces beneath a generic, uninteresting canvas just to fool highway thieves. It's wild, right? So, using a thin, flat blade on the hollow corner, Walter carefully pried back the nails. A small wooden panel slid loose, and suddenly, that modern, ugly, abstract canvas with its thick black lines and yellow and red patches lifted entirely away. Beneath it, they didn't find highwayman treasure. They found something much, much more profound. It was an older, breathtaking portrait of a young woman in a pale blue dress, bathed in soft, delicate light. It was a literal masterpiece that looked like it belonged to a completely different century, intentionally buried beneath an ugly modern cover.
Section 3. A Mid-Century Art Conspiracy. The portrait wasn't alone in the frame. They also found a hidden packet of folded paper tucked beneath a towel. Translating these 5 decaying sheets of elegant French cursive revealed a truly devastating timeline. It was a letter written in the 1950s by a woman named Marguerite
to her beloved. In it, she revealed a heartbreaking truth. Because mid-century galleries stubbornly refused to accept or display art created by women, she had actually been painting in secret under her husband's name for decades. And her husband's name? Albert Vauquelin. A quick internet search sent Henry and Walter's heads spinning. Albert Vauquelin was celebrated globally as one of the greatest mid-century masters in the world, with works hanging in literally every major national gallery. But for decades, he had completely stolen the credit for her genius. That is, up until the present day, when Henry's $5 thrift store run finally uncovered the truth. Vauquelin's entire legacy was an absolute lie.
The proof of this incredible injustice was staring right at them. In the bottom right corner of the uncovered portrait of the woman in the blue dress lay a delicate, flowing signature, Marguerite. This was her one act of defiance, the single painting she dared to sign with her real name and hide away. Desperate for official validation, Henry and Walter summoned a forensic handwriting expert. The tension in Henry's home was suffocating as the expert analyzed this hidden signature against documented, multi-million-dollar Vauquelin masterpieces. Finally, she delivered a shocking verdict. The pressure points, the stroke directions, they were an exact, undeniable match. The true creator of the entire Vauquelin legacy was this forgotten woman, Marguerite, hidden in plain sight all along.
Section 4. A priceless decision.
Well, word of the forensic match spread like wildfire. It completely transformed Henry's quiet, peaceful suburban home into a chaotic headquarters packed with frantic historians, wealthy collectors, and intense art experts. Every single local museum director arrived on his doorstep, bringing this massive atmosphere of paranoia and greed into the neighborhood. And the reason for this media storm was staggering. Experts valued the single $5 thrift store find at $1.1 million. Yes, you heard that right. This sudden shift in authorship threatened to completely upend the entire global art market. It immediately ignited a fierce, cutthroat bidding war among elite national galleries across the country, all of them desperate for the opportunity to display the painting and capitalize on the massive attention this historical revelation would draw.
So the crucial point is, what do you actually do when you are suddenly holding a $1.1 million secret? Henry had a massive moral and financial choice to make. I mean, he was a retired carpenter. He lived a comfortable, modest life. And now he had the world's most elite galleries throwing life-changing amounts of money at him for a piece he bought for pocket change. But Henry realized that this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about a woman who died completely unrecognized by the world and a grand legacy that was built on a lie.
So right in the middle of this massive media storm, Henry and Walter managed to track down Albert Vauquelin's surviving granddaughter, Elise. They reached out cautiously, knowing this revelation would destroy her grandfather's reputation forever. Elise traveled across the country, and when she stood before the portrait, tears welled in her eyes as the reality hit her. The legacy belonged to her grandmother. Henry invited Elise to stay at his home. They shared meals, and they built this really quiet, beautiful understanding. And then Henry made a decision that absolutely shocked the art world. He refused the million-dollar offers and selflessly gave the painting to Elise, entirely for free. He believed it belonged with her family, and more importantly, he knew it was the only right way to honor Marguerite. For Henry, seeing Marguerite's true historical recognition honored brought a deep satisfaction that no amount of money could ever match.
Henry slowly returned to his routine, carrying the quiet understanding that his one simple decision on a Tuesday afternoon changed history in a really meaningful way. Which leaves all of us with something to think about. If you found a piece of lost history tucked away in a thrift store, if you held the key to $1 million lie, would you cash in? Or would you sacrifice the fortune to rewrite the past and give a forgotten genius her rightful name? It's an absolutely incredible story of intuition, truth, and doing the right thing. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.